another qualification spot on the line. It's Complexity versus Furia. Over to Tea Time and Yumi.
13-10, 13-11. Gentlemen, take some risks. I need to hear some 13 threes. What about you, UM3? Can I get some threes from you?
No, I mean, they explained it quite well on the desk. I mean, T-sides have been very difficult. Also, I mean, these are two Goliath teams within this America's RMR, so you're expecting this game to be quite a nail-biter, quite a close one. Hard to make a call. First map in the series, Overpass, and it's Furious starting CT. Complexity's T-side has a lot of questions to answer.
Complexity are just freezing early on. They want to let Furia aggress into them, and Fallen has to try and recover what Cello's lost. That's his life. Guess what? It's another one forfeited. And if you were looking at EliGE to see which EliGE would show up, well, it's a pretty good start.
It's a nice way to sort of pull that into question. I mean, you want EliGE to perform, you want KSCERATO to perform, and right now EliGE finding those two entries, it makes Furia very uncomfortable. In fact, EliGE not just finished, not just content with two. A third found as Art tried to hold on to the long side of the A attack, but this round is pretty well cooked. These two remaining players here on Furia stuck on B, and I don't think they want to gamble. They want to try and even chance it. They're hightailing it out of there. A very clean pistol from Complexity. It's all EliGE.
Furia had a plan, and then they met the big bald man. EliGE has been taking a shine to the world. I'm telling you, Michael, it's all about losing the hair. That's what gives you the game. Of course, he's had it historically for a very long time as well. EliGE, a man who has been present at every major since he first showed up, save one. Krakow in 2017 being the only exception. KSCERATO falls as well over here. Complexity, very good start to things.
But in terms of actually winning major titles, something that's actually escaped EliGE, even with all those attendances.
It's a ghost he's chasing past, but right now he's looking at a much more present Phantom of Copenhagen. Can't be thinking about all of those grand finals from 2016. Well, it's just the one, really, but... Furia as well, of course, a team that does have more than their fair share of demons to try and conquer. A pretty poor showing at the Paris Major. Finishing last in their stage. Of course, they went into the stage on the basis of the RMR. They're hoping to try and make something work with this force by coming into it. Fallen still set up for the AWP, had the scout dropped over to him. In the meanwhile, JT quiets down, slows down. He knows that the easiest way to lose out in these situations is versus the force buys. We've seen so many teams fall by the wayside because of it. And a lot of presence shown out to be. The T's are making no secrets about where they want to go, but is that really their final destination?
An initial round of utility, but they're waiting to see if Furia decided to make any sort of reactionary play off the back of it, expending some of the utility that was available here for those CTs. The Complexity have just sat still and are ready to re-exec back into this B play. Furia have pulled one of those players away. There were 4 B before, now 3.
At the same time, there's no Molotovs, and that's going to be an absolutely vital point to keep in mind. KSCERATO with the re-smoke out on the monster as well. EliGE is good for the first, but the flashbang gives KSCERATO blind. Good for the quick double. Can he switch out for the AK? No, just the Galil found. EliGE in the meanwhile still locked out of the B bomb site. Short was mollied. This is where KSCERATO needs to find more, and indeed he does. Both him and Fallen coming alive, and Complexity have walked into a trap. EliGE the only one to find frags, but he will not find the round.
I mean, right now, it does feel like we're getting the battle of the two titans. It's EliGE and KSCERATO that deliver on rounds for each of their respective teams. It was EliGE in the pistol, but on the answer, on the force buy, KSCERATO overperforming. That MP9, that swap out to the Galil, just rips them to shreds. And they just kept on chain smoking Monster. Complexity had to run straight through it, even though they wanted to re-exec on that bomb site. The fact that they didn't have that Molotov certainly comes back to bite them. There were players in positions that would typically be Molotovs on an execute that were able to just sit pretty.
Force buy out from Complexity to try and back up that AK of EliGE. They're hoping to turn the tide back in their favor once again, but it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it'll be the easiest. FURIA come into this with quite a hotbed of utility as well. Yuri started off this tournament with a fiery performance on his own on Inferno versus the Nouns, and now this is a great start to things. Long range with the AUG, flashes being dodged and largely irrelevant because of the distance. Yuri and KSCERATO are kicking things off, and Yuri almost getting the full ace. Grim denies, but it's 499 damage. You might as well give it to him.
Yeah, 1 health on Grim, and Yuri was fighting by his lonesome. Finally finished off by KSCERATO, this tag team. If the A bomb side is off limits because Yuri's there, and the B bomb side is taken up by KSCERATO as well, the map suddenly will begin to feel very, very small. A nice start for both these stars on FURIA.
Good to see. A lot of that recent downswing from the FURIA side has been characterized with a slightly quieter performance from Yuri as well. Yes, he's had a good showing so far at the RMR, but not against anyone like Complexity. Maybe not a juggernaut anymore, but definitely titanic in the North American scene. Can FURIA be the iceberg for them?
A slower builder, trying to expend as much utility as they can. Of course, they're only moving in with pistols here on the side of Complexity. FURIA have been able to take handle on this game. Start off with a little bit of a back and forth with those 4 spies. You can see they're fine to give up a little bit of control. They know they shouldn't be dealing with too much. There can still be a worry. Grim hunting with that deagle, trying to lead the way for the squad. If he's able to find one of these rifles, could reinforce their arsenal. Boost up for Grim, but it's quickly spotted out by Yuri, so a bit of an indicator. A couple of players spotted over towards Banana.
Floppy.
Oh.
Floppy at the falling, KSCERATO on Yuri on the bomb site, making it look very simple. No one's really able to trace out Fallen either. The USP followed up by the quickscope on the scout. FURIA clean it up to 3.
Starts a bit awkward there for Yuri. It looked like he was maybe looking at his minimap or something just as they decided to swing from the front side of bathrooms. Slow on the uptake, but there's Fallen to keep a handle on things on the A play. They're up against pistols, but you're kind of expecting, you know, Yuri in a forward position like that. He was gonna do most of the dirty work, but it's Fallen and KSCERATO that sweep up. And now into the rifles. This is a map that, you know, JT, when he was on his come up as an in-game leader, felt like Overpass was kind of his bread and butter. So no surprises that Complexity have picked it into this series. They're talking about on the desk, there's very limited demo work to look back on FURIA, and so they won't be ready for plays like that. A triple boost in from Graffiti, JT blissfully unaware.
You have to love the fact that FURIA is just pulling out all of these gimmicks from their opponent's map pick. This was the most obvious direction Complexity could go for. From the pistol round to now, we have seen FURIA plan things out very meticulously. Sure, the pistol round plan didn't work their way, doesn't matter. And you have to keep in mind that there is history between Fallen and JT in particular. You only have to go back to 2022, where Complexity fell to Imperial. And that qualification process for Antwerp, you are still going up against some of the finest minds of Counter-Strike that the Americas regions have ever had. Complexity might be favorites on this map, but that doesn't mean it's going to come easy. FURIA's proven it before, they'll prove it again. Fallen to cover out the toilets. Oh no! He's given away his position. They might realize there's a man near flower pots. At least the audio cue should give it away. Holzer's found Yuri in the meanwhile. Nading opened the smoke and he continues forward. Fallen found out. KSCERATO covers him off and gives them the advantage again. 3 versus 1. EliGE unable to find contact. And for now, unable to find the bomb as well. Time's ticking down low. A player's moved up close and personal. It's Art. EliGE doesn't spot out the foot in time. Art will overrun him. 4-1. FURIA looking unstoppable.
That's all he needed to hear, that one tap, and it's Art that's willing to aggress right into him, his first frag, but to deny EliGE a clutch. They were talking about it on the desk, the idea that Complexity were, in some instances, a bit reliant on players to clutch back. It was Holzerk that was really stepping up to that sort of port of call. But now that FURIA have taken control, you need some activation on some of the map control here from Complexity. They've already been thrown a couple of curveballs by FURIA, whether it's been Yuri on his AUG that is ready to tear heads clean off, even on a round like this. Running in with a half-buy, they are getting destroyed by these scoped weapons, and Yuri didn't even zoom.
Fallen looking like he's having a quick flashback. Might be just against the anti-ecos, but remember. A confident Fallen is one to be terrified of. Especially when it comes to qualification processes, especially when it comes to majors, especially when it comes to anywhere where he might be able to farm up some nervous players.
Yeah, and in terms of form, you know, Fallen, when they were winning majors, when they were competing and making it into playoffs of the major circuit, you know, you wanted to see a very unformed Fallen. He was able to have so much impact on their rise, and it's only really been in the past couple of years where we started to question whether or not his in-game leading is really up to scratch. You know, they had that debacle bringing him into FURIA. Art is now taking the reins a little bit. I'm sure Fallen is still calling to a certain extent, but the majority of the game planning seems would probably gravitate towards Art. But having that secondary in-game leader is nice. But you want Fallen to put up those types of numbers again.
You also want JD to put up some numbers. Of course, he's a player who's had a big, I wouldn't even say resurgence. He's had a big peak in form.
He's had a great emergence with the new version.
He went from being a player who everyone was saying, you know what, this guy is one of those Hunden type characters as far as, you know, aim is concerned, as well as brain for the game.
But he's been fragging on CS2.
And that's been the expectation now. EliGE having unburdened his shoulders with some of that secondary calling that we're speculating Fallen provides. But for now, a very quiet game from both JT and Floppy.
Sympathies out to Fallen, of course. This FURIA core played over 1,100 maps together, competed together for 5 years. So, you know, sometimes it's kind of hard to teach old dogs new tricks. Even if they're new dogs, new tricks. This FURIA core were touted as the next wave of Brazil.
They have proven it. But the question is, do they still have more to show us? And you'd hope so, you really would. Olzerk doesn't know that Yuri's nearby, and the flash is good, but Yuri doesn't peek behind it. Is there a second one to fly through? Yuri's being spammed. Holzerk will find him as well. Yuri might regret not peeking out earlier on, but Fallen is here to quickly salvage the situation. KSCERATO's fast rotate as well as Fallen's fast opping. The A side impenetrable.
If you had any questions about whether Fallen would show up to this series or not, there is your answer. He has been locking them down. He feasted from Divider, and now as well battles them back off of this A play. KSCERATO right behind him to help sweep up those frags. Even if Fallen were to miss, I have I can almost guarantee you KSCERATO would have cleaned them up as well.
And it does feel like Fallen is coming into his own as sort of that third player of the team. If Yuri is fragging as well, I have to remind everyone, contrary to popular narrative, in the classic lineup, it was coldzera, Fur, then Fallen, most likely. Fur was just an absolute menace as well. So if you can get something similar to that dynamic going, there's no one who can try and work off of a passive rifler the same way Fallen does. He's been doing it for, what, 10 years now?
So far, none of the defaults, none of the setups that Complexity have been going for have been actually working for them. The only round they've attributed so far is that pistol round where EliGE found 3 kills. Great nade as well onto them creeping into that short side tunnel. These players on Complexity, they get moving with a half-buy, but they're wounded, they're weakened. Floppy trying to lead in, but there's Cello to chew them up from short. Cello not done with just 2. It's Art right behind him, and it's all 4 for Cello on the B hold. FURIA cannot be moved.
The A side is impenetrable because KSCERATO rotates so fast and Yuri's so present. The B bomb side has Cello and also KSCERATO. Why can't we just find a site? Why can't we just make an attack?
Where is the weakness?
So far, it's all concentrated in the North American side. And this is where EliGE, as much as we might credit him with being the main propellant for this team, I don't see him as the kind of player who's going to solo find them a couple of entries. I don't see him the kind of player who's going to crack open a round. It's more a force in the mid-round. That's where his aggression comes into play.
And Complexity already using their second timeout. They need to find solutions to this, and quick. What a performance from Cello. Someone that when he joined out of MIBR into Imperial, able to maintain some solid numbers for the squad, but it's actually been, since he's joined FURIA, still sticking with Fallen from that Imperial project, moving into FURIA. It's actually been more difficult for him to find, I guess, the room to find those kills, but if you can have performances like that, then numbers be damned.
Didn't seem like he was the right role to replace Rob, to be frank, but now KSCERATO tagged down early. Does look like that might have been the spam, not sure exactly where that comes in from. But in the meanwhile, Grim dodging nades, dodging bullets, dodging sightlines.
I love that they're exploring all these boosts. Like you said, some gimmicks to throw at Complexity, make them uncomfortable. Wouldn't have been able to prep too much for FURIA leaning into some of these gimmicks. You know, something we see a lot of underdog teams do. FURIA definitely knew that this was the likely path here for Complexity, and because they don't have as many officials on it, they act with that element of surprise. Big boost up here for EliGE, but Yuri, around the corner, EliGE just too sharp.
Nade's also very good. KSCERATO's gone, and EliGE, that's a double kill. Hey, you're looking for that mid-round presence that he can offer. Floppy still holding things down on the lurk back towards the B-bomb site. Holzer spots out the ship. And Art goes down. Cello, the chance now to succeed where everyone else has failed. Good for that first. He notices Floppy as well, rounding the corner, but the shadow of Holzer doesn't matter. Fallen covers off Floppy on the side. He's in a 1v3, closing the distance to the bomb. Time ticking down low. The Deck 9 striking through, but Fallen can't do it all on his own.
God, he made you sweat there for a second.
Yeah.
Players pulling out utility, not ready for him for Fallen to start swinging with the Tech 9. They knew he had the open hand, so thought he would maintain with that, but Fallen kept that pressure high. Pressure applied. Once again, you need a multi-kill out of EliGE to break through with a round. That's all the Complexity has been able to find so far in this attack. And time called here for FURIA. Straight out of the Complexity timeout, they're able to break through. They show some presence. They played a little slower, but they're able to get that boost up for EliGE to mount into a double. And if KSCERATO hadn't taken so much damage in the earlier bout, then maybe that nade doesn't finish him off, but things got very, very dicey.
Look, at the end of the day, you need to adjust to Yuri, right? Like, he's the one who's being such a menace towards his A site, willing to play aggressive, willing to try and put himself out there. If you can find the pick on Yuri, that seems to be the key. Don't let it be a trade. That's not enough. Fallen now trying to get aggressive inside connector. Worried about a faster play, but a smoke down, and KSCERATO now boosted up. Fallen through the smoke, finds Floppy, traces him through, and Grim doesn't have much to speak of. A one-way smoke that he's set up for himself to peek behind for that very boost that they're going for, but he's already lost a teammate.
A really nice way to boost up as well. You don't leave yourself exposed. Had cover to fall and slip back into. So it was a very difficult fight for Grim to really navigate, especially when there was a smoke down inside of connector. The Complexity are flying a little blind. They know that there was 2 players boosted up, but do they know that FURIA have reset 3 players gravitating towards this A play, falling with a forward position inside of the bathrooms, ready to take a tight line. That's only if Complexity decide to start slow working it with that AWP that they should be able to meet this AWP.
Fallen gets these. Surely he gets these. No, misses it. Yuri as well. Misses his chance, and now no flashes to help. Fallen is down. JT breaks his first and second blood. The flashbang is fantastic, but KSCERATO is just better. 2 frags delivered, back to a 2-on-2. Cello and Art trying to accelerate. The bomb being planted is their point to commit, but they don't do so. The Molotov is late, and the spam right back weakens Cello. Holzer missing a crucial shot, but a deep nade will help soften things up for EliGE. He knows where the last player is as well, but a quick adjustment from Cello won't be enough. Holzer brings it all back, but my God, that round should not have been so close.
He might have missed on the first, and that was a tough shot, but none more important than him finishing off the round there for Complexity. JT getting this double kill into Banana just creates so much opportunity, and it was these flashes from Art on the rotate that almost teed up KSCERATO to shut down this A play.
How does he get this?
He gets caught pretty hard by the flash, but JT as well, caught by it all the same. That's flick from Cello. I mean, the fact he hit that headshot, it was a lot of pressure on Holzer to tie the bow on the round. It's very expensive, but Complexity just need rounds to their tally. Funds were available here for FURIA. In fact, they still run with some in reserve, even moving past into another full buy. Grim weakened up by the nade, and he still peeks into it.
Hoping to find that booster player, hoping to eliminate it quickly. Complexity do realize that FURIA is going for a lot of these boosts, a lot of these gimmicks, but they can't do anything about it. Sometimes the best thing to do is ignore it, not try and fight it.
Yeah, but which boost are you anticipating? There are many.
Yeah. And has always been the problem of Overpass if you are the T side. Cello. Molotov will not be deployed in time. He'll have to do this old-fashioned. It goes right past him. Floppy closes the distance. Cello should be a dead man, but he's ducked all the way down. Nothing working out for Cello. Rather, against Cello. JT as well falls in the meanwhile. They simply cannot scale onto this B site. Holzer and EliGE all alone, and now Holzer, a man who's been asked to clutch many times across this tournament, but that's just impossible.
And it's this rifling pack that are having these issues here on the side of Complexity. You know, you maybe highlight EliGE, you maybe highlight JT as these players that are able to breach in, find openings for you. But Grim and Floppy, you know, these are players that have experience and have been touted as these star players within the North American region. And right now, really struggling versus this FURIA that are willing to get down and dirty. You know, when there's smokes down, there's Molotovs, they're showing a lot of bravado in the way that they're playing. It's very reminiscent of their opening round as well, coming into this tournament. Taking some risks, but they're very often rewarded. Complexity picked this map. Fourth round would go a long way, that's for sure, but no guarantees, especially on a pretty cobbled together buy. ODDIK of JT meets Yuri on that AUG, but he'll hear steps right behind him and does get floored finally by one of the ODDIKs on Complexity.
Rotation's over. They are so confident in Cello's ability to hold that bomb site, they can stack 3 players here on A. Deep Molotov gets fallen space to set up, but EliGE now anticipates. He knows their tendency. They're watching out for Art's push as well. KSCERATO, can you line up 3? You can't even get 1 in that position. Cello now on the rotate, given a chance to shine, but I don't know if he can really hold a candle up to this 1v4. Complexity collect on that 4th round, but truly a difficult half for them.
3 rounds where EliGE has been able to get, well, I think that was another 3K for Complexity to pull up at least something on this T side. If there was anything you needed to highlight the importance of that man joining the roster, not only does he bring experience, but he also brings probably a brand new attitude. He came into this roster.
Yeah.
He was often looked at as being that vet within the Liquid system, but once he was removed, I think this is, I mean, it was a total slam dunk to have grabbed up EliGE.
But here's the problem. You can't have the former stars just stop shining. You mentioned Floppy and Grim before. Floppy and Grim were such major propellants for this team. Complexity had so many good upset victories. Complexity took so many good scalps. They looked so good and so heavily behind Grim and Floppy. You need that activation, and JT takes down Cello early on. EliGE found out, and it feels like with the raid boss gone, a reroute back to A might be a priority for Furia.
Yeah, it's a big head to find. Art as well, boosting himself up, but leaves himself vulnerable. Floppy picking him up above that smoke. And Holzerk trying to lock them in topside connector. And he does have a nice fallback path should he spot a player. Yeah, just sees the shoulder and decides to give it up. That was the bomb that was spotted, but not enough skin showing. I don't think that the radar would have shown that to him. They're going to stick 2 and 2 here on the side of Complexity. They do have a Molotov, a flashbang, and a smoke available here for Furia to crack into this site, but do they know that there's a flank being engaged here by Holzerk?
I love the push from him. Sets him up for success very nicely, but Yuri could also catch a timing. Yuri instead catches a bullet. KSCERATO and Fallen. So much success found between these two players on that CT side, and Fallen looks to respond on a player who has not retreated. Holzerk decides he wants to stay and fight. And now with more rotations coming over, Grim is the one to reinforce the A-bomb site. Fallen trying to close the distance, looks for any duels he can take, planting inside the smoke. It's a bold choice, but KSCERATO can cover off with some great damage found. They know where Holzerk is as well, but they're just not ready. Holzerk and Floppy do close it out, but KSCERATO is still looking sharp as ever.
Yeah, great job keeping that pressure up, and Fallen prioritizing that plant to get the money injection moving into that second round. We saw a bit of a force buy back and forth at the start of this game. And Furia may look to engage that same engine on this T side as well. They should move in with a pretty solid buy, one that will be very hard to combat if you're on the side of Complexity. CT side resources do typically cost more.
Yeah.
It's a great way for Furia maybe to be able to answer back, but like you're saying, you know, great proactivity from Holzerk, even though they're in that man-up situation. If they let Furia set up for that execute, it probably would have been a lot harder to have held onto that bomb site. KSCERATO on 17 kills. Not only locking things down on B, but did great jobs on the rotation as well and when they were on that CT side. Like you said, still pretty sharp on that pistol.
Holzerk, early tag, but he trades it out with a ding to his head as well. That's not going to be particularly conducive. Holzerk now falls. EliGE fades away. His teammate might be regretting the fact that he maintained position for so long.
Yeah, Fury didn't actually buy up. You know, they just went in with this one AK, a couple of upgraded pistols, and they were hoping that Cello could maybe pry bar in, but now that AK has changed hands.
You really do wish it would be in KSCERATO, so. I know he's got the deagle, but come on, guys, we've had this debate.
He's also a little far away.
I mean, just to start the round off, to be honest. KSCERATO. Opportunity. Will it be given again? Very unlikely. Art's the one who wants to lead the charge in the meanwhile. Can he find a head? Even damage is fantastic at this stage. CT side money. I mentioned it before. All you need to do is just try and pin it into an impossible circumstance. Art moves away from the flashbang. There's 20 seconds left on the clock. KSCERATO still committed here onto the A-bomb site. Knows he just needs to find one kill to make this somewhat possible to threaten the rotate, see if anyone can move off with the site, anything like it, but no. No kills found. EliGE will continue that streak of form.
Yeah, they don't fall foul to that one AK that's recovered. Sure, Art got a kill right back onto Divider, but bar that, Complexity had a pretty solid read on what was happening. Didn't feel like they were panicked at all. So moving into the CT, nice confident start. You know, to win the pistol, to move forward, deal with that anti-weird buy. But they should anticipate full weaponry out from Furia coming into this third round of the second half. Art with a MAC-10. Willing to take that sacrifice for the team, but a man known for his aggression. And the MAC-10 is kind of a great weapon to facilitate that. Be able to close that gap.
Furia right now don't want to close anything. They just want to freeze up and see what Complexity have planned. This is a map where EliGE generally since he's made his way onto this team, likes to push forward, likes to find space, likes to press the advantages they may have. But right now, he knows it's all about passivity for him and staying alive.
Yeah, it's not EliGE this time. It's Holzerk with this MP9 that's looking to hunt. And it's the one weapon you're kind of allowed to give up early. If Holzerk can find a backstab or a good timing, this round could completely unfold for FURIA.
This is an excellent timing already being found. And as the smoke dissipates, if Complexity can re-smoke this, it feels like you're setting up Holzerk for perfection. And indeed, bomb's been dropped and FURIA are completely split up across the map. Floppy finds another for free, and EliGE makes quick work of any lurkers. Fallen, who've been saving up for the AWP, will just be saving that AWP.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect decision made there from Holzerk. Willing to take that risk because of the weapon that he had, but also got his kill, called out the fact that it's that bomb, and knew that there was probably going to be more presence outside of B. That package is very infrequently unescorted. So really well handled, good communication in from Complexity as well. And Holzerk is one of those players that when he first joined this Complexity core, did feel like he was taking a lot more risks, taking a lot more fights, willing to sort of dictate how he approached rounds. But as time went on, you know, it felt like he started to shell up a bit. And that's not the Holzerk you want to see on this roster. They asked for better performances on the desk. They got that. But clear and concise decision-making from Holzerk will certainly go a long way as well. Listen, they only came into this half trailing by 4 rounds and throwing a little spanner in the works of FURIA before they can even really adjust to what they want to do in the mid-round. Could really help justify this pick here for Complexity.
And the fact is, EliGE has given them enough of a parachute that they can slow down that descent. Seem to be sprouting out some wings from their back in the meanwhile as well. Not very often you see a successful spam back with the Eagle, but EliGE has now got successful timing off on the ground, and also can try and move forward to recover that later on.
It's a 2-man band on Complexity.
It really is.
Holzerk and EliGE make up so many of the stopping power on this North American organization. You've got 11.
4 kills between them.
Yeah, and you've got 11 for the rest.
So combined, they're more than 3 times what everyone else is doing, which feels like a pretty fair depiction of what's happening in all fairness.
It's not like it's not a little topside heavy for FURIA as well, but we had a round from Cello, we had a round from Yuri. R was able to
make calls.
Yes, yeah, make calls.
Yep. There you go. I know how to carry water.
He's also able to shut down EliGE in what was a 1 versus 3 attempt from what is a fearsome competitor on the server.
Indeed. 21-9 right now.
So any chance you get to shut that man down, I mean, you'll take it.
And I do also wonder what the thought process is when you're deciding which site you're going to die on. KSCERATO will fall to JT. Do you want to reinforce an already fiery EliGE? Or do you want to just maybe give Floppy, JT, or Grim the win that they've been looking for in their sales?
It's so rare as well that you'll be able to see players have this kind of performance like EliGE is putting up and be able to maintain that for the whole map. You know, at a certain point, they're just going to keep exhausting resources at you so that those fights basically don't happen. But it is a bit of a question to be answered here for FURIA. How do you stop EliGE? Do you negate him? Do you just bypass him altogether and try and go elsewhere? Then are you worried about flanks from Holzerk? Certainly a discussion happening here for FURIA in this timeout.
You'd hope that Gary can come through and add something to the tally, because all of those cute gimmicks that you were going through on the CT side, you better have some pocket strats on T side. You're ready for this map. Are you ready for that side?
A little bit more difficult to make a boost work on T side, because you're sitting still, you're sitting stagnant while you're on that boost, and you're just hoping that they're in one of these forward spots that's vulnerable to it. Also, it just feels like there's less boosts on T side in general.
Hey, you can get an op kill into the heaven jump.
You can clear pillar on B, but Precursor is to take short water control, which has been It has been free territory. Complexity haven't been actually throwing bodies in there, but there's been a lot of utility. This time a boost up here for EliGE, but not spotting much of anything. Just trying to make sure that they're in the right spot to make full use of that pillar that obscures vision.
They have completely left Holzerk alone. They understand. He might not have the EWP, but with the game that he's having, Holzerk can at least provide enough stopping power to allow for rotates to happen should it be a fast play down divider.
Well, Complexity may be reading into the fact that they'd want to avoid EliGE. That's why they brought him over to that B bomb site. But because there's been basically no presence shown by FURIA, bar the opening round of utility, they gravitate back.
Fallen is just going to hold down a line that won't be contested at all. 40 seconds left on the clock. Complexity have no reason to peek. They've made the right play. And I think now they also have the call. Now they do for sure, but Holzerk peeks too wide out. EliGE dodges a flash. Will he be checked? Lazily done from Cello, and he is punished for it. The bomb down and the rotation's called. Grim good for one. Does he realize there's a second? No. Fallen can trade. 20 seconds on the clock, and JT and Floppy push through. A smoke to extinguish the flames, but JT has been extinguished himself. Floppy called upon, but honestly might be a good idea to just run away. He does go for that first, but can't connect on KSCERATO in time. A Molotov behind him. They're still hunting Yuri. Is still curious about whether he will be challenged. Floppy recedes from that A site.
Yeah, the molly actually missed, so it didn't go inside of bag. It actually sort of landed right in front of it, but Floppy was going to fall back anyway. Did a lot of damage, but needed to finish off that frag if he wanted to go for this clutch attempt. FURIA out of that timeout. Some nice, solid trading. A much slower round, but flashing off these angles that Complexity were fighting into in the front side of bathrooms made it very difficult for EliGE to move in immediately for the trade onto Holzerk. He got trapped in an angle, and once he had committed into the front side of bathrooms, he was basically trapped. He had to fight his way out.
And unfortunately for Holzerk, it feels like Complexity did leave him out on an island and ask him to go for information, or maybe he chooses to do that on his own. He's the only player who functionally can do it, in all fairness, but the problem is, if you're ending up swinging wide into potentially a couple of AKs holding the angle, it is a hard fight to win.
It's also one of those spots where, you know, you'd almost wish Holzerk had an AWP in that position instead of having that rifle.
Would have made a big difference.
So it is a tactical timeout to discuss.
Last one they have in regulation.
Yeah, had to use 2 on that T side.
And this is where you would hope that there's something planned on the CT side from JT as well. A good flash play to try and get Grim and Floppy some of that B short control that's been so far uncontested, perhaps.
Yuri 4-3 in opening duels, but EliGE 5-1. The opener has not always led to a round win, but it has surefire helped. Out of that timeout, nothing really too abnormal here for Complexity. That AWP trained on long, but it's not a fight that Fallen will be peeking into. Take it more reserved, going for connector control and just trying to slow work mid. This is what FURIA have been confident in doing the past couple rounds. Even if the Complexity make the right read. FURIA are actually doing a great job of kind of holding on to resources, even though they're actually trying to poke and probe on this map control. Holzerk might finally be tested, though.
If they keep trying to jiggle out the angle, it does feel like you're inviting death onto yourself. Holzerk even given the warning shot out, but EliGE just caught in the open. Art to trade. Meanwhile, Fallen flashed up, blinded completely, and Holzerk has to put up the defense. The AWP good for the single kill so far. Holzerk is not really being given too much company either. Grim makes his way over. Fox taking down low. KSCERATO still lurking out towards that B side. Feels like that's where they want to attack. And with the rotations being successfully called over, Yuri does give out sound. They know what's coming into the B bomb site. JT surely has made that call. The rotation's coming over. Floppy needs to find the frag, but the scope on the other side will not matter. Floppy wins regardless, and JT is doubled up. A deep nade, and Art won't be able to trace out JT accurately so. Time's run out, and all he can do is look to save the AWP. Despite an early kill onto that raid boss, FURIA can't convert.
Yeah, and just as I was praising them for being able to hold on to utility, it was just late call to go back towards that B bomb site. As soon as there was a step made over as well, JT just putting himself on the top of the site. But FURIA didn't have a flash to allow those monster players out. And they unfortunately line up there for JT, but that's a big play for the in-game leader of Complexity to have pulled through. Complexity got caught on a bit of a weird timing. Holzerk was allowing EliGE to kind of investigate because it had been so long since they'd actually heard any additional presence from FURIA. But Holzerk's presence was enough to force them back. Great independent protocols from Holzerk as well. He kept himself alive on that A site.
EliGE down, Yuri gives him some company. Grim will fall and JT might follow. Bollin's here to finish off a man who is very weak, seems overkill with the op, but as long as there's a kill in there, doesn't matter if it's over.
This is a much more aggressive stance from Complexity. They went as a challenge at the short water and they get brutalized.
I know I did ask for this very same thing before, but it feels like FURIA knows what's coming. They've been waiting for that short water control for so long at this point that maybe you're hoping that they neglect something. Maybe you're hoping that they make a mistake.
It's a nice kill from Holzerk, but him and Floppy have paired up together. They've vacated the B play. So FURIA will have a free site, a free plant, and they'll be the ones that punch in for a 10th first. They'd have barely enough to reinvest here if Complexity fell on all their players. Wouldn't allow for enough room to get their hands back on this AWP, so you want to see Holzerk engaged. It's imperative that they save, but FURIA also want to be able to stabilize their own money, so I wouldn't expect that more than maybe one player to really hunt for this.
No, this is just going to be a basic handshake. And I have to remind everyone, the only time that Complexity's had a lead in this game was the first round. They won the pistol. After that, FURIA has been relentless. Despite multiple equalizers, Complexity simply has been unable to find that push forward. KSCERATO is not even the one who's necessarily fragging out of control at this point. He's only had one kill in the past, what, 4 or 5 rounds or so. Fallen continues to plod along, getting a couple of kills here and there, but Yuri, Cello, and Art, these past 2 rounds that they have won, feel like they've come off of their shoulders.
Complexity don't have any more timeouts. They've exhausted that time with their coach. Ooh, good spam. Yuri tagged and beginning to trail back, but Fallen's there to cover the retreat should EliGE have pushed forward. A player that we couldn't stop singing the praises of, but has been actually picked off as one of the first points of contact in a couple of these rounds as well.
He feels so desperate to try and make a play. FURIA is catching on to that as well. Yuri waiting. EliGE loves to go for this. EliGE loves to push all the way through, but now teams are expecting it and he will not be defined by expectations. The only expectation he wants to meet is that of excellence as he ascends back up the connector. But with rotations going forward, Yuri as well makes his way out. Yuri's given up the angle. There would be a timing, but EliGE isn't here to make advantage of it. Holzerk, full belt of util, so if he starts to rotate over, this will be big. For FURIA to broach this bomb site, they have to go past multiple riflers, a Molotov, a flash, maybe even a smoke on the site itself. And as they start to creep forward, Floppy cannot greet them with a kill. It's JT instead to frag, and EliGE finds Yuri in the battle of patience. FURIA has lost in that one fight. And it feels like they've lost this one round as well. Complexity continue to stay as even as they can.
And because they kept waiting for so long on FURIA, it's that time that works against them. EliGE was still inside of the connector, inside of those steps. He heard that rotate back full and asking for the utility there for Yuri, left on the lurk. And because of that, Holzerk started gravitating over as well. Complexity had a very solid read as to what was going to happen. The only vulnerability was going to be if that was a bit of a sound bait, and instead they were creeping up long, but they had a player in place to act as an initial signal.
You got to take risks. You got to make those calls, even if it was a sound bait, anything like it.
But it's all that umming and ahhing for FURIA that leads Complexity to basically know exactly what's going to happen before it does on that B site.
Unlike what we saw from the Complexity T side, there doesn't seem to be any one player I can point a finger towards and say, hey, take over this T side round. KSCERATO isn't that kind of guy. You're expecting Yuri, you're expecting Art, maybe Cello. And there's been now 4 rounds in a row that Complexity has won that have all been timed, that have all been saves. FURIA are running out of time because of a lack of instigation. They must realize it as well. Half-hearted fights won't do it. No presence out towards that A site from FURIA in that initial default. They want to reinforce connector and maybe try and funnel through to the B bomb site. Big maybe though. Complexity, they're ready for that exact play. JT continues to hold close short. Waits for the peaks to come through.
I mean, still has EliGE inside that connector as well, but there's so much presence being thrown his way. JT calling Grim over. They're prepared for a double swing, a fight in towards short, and this might be at a timing that they don't expect. Art drops his guard. Yuri inside of that connector cannot swing, even though that door is blown wide open, and a Molotov that greets KSCERATO. They heard that singular singe as well. They'll know that there's players right behind that. EliGE re-aggressing, but there's Yuri, a patient man. And they swing right into Monster. The flash was good, but KSCERATO still able to adjust, and Cello right behind him. It's Grim left alone on the site. Holzerk coming in to reinforce, but he'll be late, and Grim has to perform. The first kill there, but the trade from KSCERATO immaculate. Blowing that smoke open, Holzerk fine, but he's caught right through it. It's KSCERATO with 3 for finally a FURIA round once again.
Complexity simply lacked the muscle for the monster fight. It feels like they found an advantage so many times trying to peek into that monster tunnel, but they never win the duel. Be it Floppy with the AUG, be it JT with the flash to help him, it doesn't matter. Again, a setup that looks perfect. But when EliGE dies and they don't have that late round presence, Grim is expected to show up.
Another valuable timeout used as well. FURIA, I mean, both these teams are completely timed out, but FURIA in with a round immediately after having a conversation with Gary. There's been riders blocked for both these squads so far this map. It has been a back and forth affair. The Complexity biting the bullet. No money to really buy up proper. So FURIA should be locked in for a 12th. EliGE's DIG is what you have to fear the most. A man that has quieted down here on the CT side. And if he has a round, you just know that's going to lift the spirits here of Complexity. It's a big ask for the man with all that experience, all those major attendances.
Surely he can't get it. Surely not fallen. Will take him down. Eliminates that one risk, that one potential threat, small as it was.
They will have to worry about the clock sooner rather than later. 40 seconds remaining here for FURIA. Complexity have gravitated a couple more players over. There shouldn't be any real problems.
We say that, but the clock has beaten FURIA many times over by this point. Positions revealed, the trigger pulled, 20 seconds are all that remain, and there's 4 players you have to go through. blinded, sure, but Floppy's going to have the advantage over here. JT and Holzer take them down. JT is fighting. 8 seconds on the clock. They can't get the defuse down. You can see the CT's retreat. Holzer realizes, but Fallen will clutch the bomb in time. Holzer now has to come back into the site. And despite the dangerous bells of clocks timing and chiming, FURIA will still recover the 12th.
Oh my dear. That is not comfortable there for FURIA. There should have been no question, but those pistols start to strike, and when that bomb fell loose, Holzer, I mean, you don't blame him for running away. There was a real chance. I didn't even realize there was a bit of team damage done there from Complexity. Not a round that is as important, but man, this could have gotten ugly. Good job from Fallen finding that kill onto JT and punching in those digits in the nick of time.
Fallen has been so key, so influential in a couple of these rounds. Maybe not the flashiest performances, bar 1 or 2. But he's been the difference maker for FURIA to find themselves at such a comfortable position where they have that 2-round lead, where Complexity has that deficit in utility despite it being a buy, and Holzer has lost his life early.
It's one of the 2 major fighting forces here on Complexity. Damage done to Floppy as well, transiting to the other side of Monster with that smoke. This is a wounded Complexity to try and stave off FURIA from taking Complexity's map pick.
An EliGE Sisyphean effort, might have bit off more than I could chew there, of rolling this boulder back up the hill again and again and again. Cello nearby, EliGE got off, but he still adjusts for the headshot. An effort you have to appreciate, but it's not about appreciation. It's about finishing, and FURIA is looking to do just that.
And it's these 2 stars that you want to see big here on Complexity that are also going to meet the same struggles. 2 remain here for Complexity, and that AWP of JT will be empty-handed. Floppy trying his damnedest. He's doing a whole lot of damage, but FURIA take Complexity's pick, 13-10. This is looking good for FURIA, but there were some major stumbles this map.
Oh my goodness, what an exciting game we certainly had on our hands there. FURIA walking away with Complexity's map pick on Overpass.